One day there was a strong thunderstorm, and from that moment it all began. Vibrant purple lightning struck the high-rise building, causing the people inside to become very frightened. They thought that it was a storm or an earthquake. No one could understand what kind of roar it was. After a moment, the light went out, and the little boy took his father's hand tightly, saying that he was very scared. The man noticed that the water began to flow somewhere. Turning around, he saw a monster with a long tongue and flowing saliva. The man screamed that it was a monster and ran along with everyone. Chaos ensued. People were very afraid and fled, not knowing where. A guy ran out into some room and thought that they would not be reached again while they were inside. On the street, people looked at what was happening and thought that the bright purple light meant the end of the world. In fact, these were anomalous thunderstorms that occurred simultaneously in different parts of the earth. This is a very rare phenomenon that happens once every 1 million years. Usually such thunderstorms portend grief, disaster, fear, poverty and hunger. The building, which was struck by lightning, soon turned into a lair of terrible murderous monsters. And many countries sent military forces there to assess the threat and gather information. However, compared to the monsters, the military had a very small chance of defeating them. Conventional weapons proved useless against the monsters, and even the army was unable to deal with the anomalies. In one of the tasks, 2 military men began to hold the line, but realized late that they needed to retreat, although there were still people. Unfortunately, it was no longer possible to save everyone, and humanity plunged into despair. Suddenly, their rescuers appeared, awakened in battle. They used special cards called gate cards, which became the salvation of all mankind. In super-secret laboratories, mysterious cards have been developed that contain incredible power that is inaccessible to the average person. Scientists foresaw that something amazing would happen in the world of dungeons. One by one, awakened ones began to appear, capable of controlling this power. They became the chosen ones, the only ones capable of saving humanity. After all, not everyone can manage these mysterious cards. Dungeons where the awakened fought monsters have become places of legend, and the heroes themselves have become popularly recognized and respected. Taking advantage of their popularity, they united in companies specializing in clearing dungeons. In a dangerous world where dungeons threatened people every day, the awakened became the elite of society. They did not need material goods, their mission was more important. Among these courageous defenders was a young guy named Okita Hikaru, with black hair and ember eyes. His life changed after the tragic loss of his father, killed by a monster. Now he had to become strong and able to destroy these dangerous creatures. His mother was in the hospital, and on his shoulders lay the responsibility for his younger sister. They were doomed to poverty, but Okita decided to take the test to see if he could become awakened. Number 87, came the cryptic message. "I'm here," the guy replied, bringing his hand to the device with the map. This test gave the opportunity to find out if the guy has the ability to manage cards. Okita offered his hand, but could not understand what was happening. "What happened? Why is number 87 not responding to the card?" he asked. But suddenly something strange happened. The screen showed the lowest level of ability, only 0.00001. No one had ever received such a low score before, but nevertheless, number 87 was accepted and received an awakened license. Even though companies didn't even consider him for the job. Okita was forced to work in different places to make ends meet. But one day a miracle happened. His younger sister brought letters from influential people. The largest dungeon clearing company, Clearwater, was looking for new employees. They were probably looking for the strongest for their team, but he was overjoyed when he heard that even the Okita was being hired. Now Okita faced a new challenge, a job where it was impossible to relax, and he was ready to put all his strength into it. After all, he sought to ensure a happy life for his younger sister and mother. He became a hero in the dungeon world, the elite of awakened society. His story has shown that even with a low rank, you can achieve great things when your heart is full of determination and courage. When Okita first joined the company, he could not imagine what the brutal inequality in the team and harassment in ranks turned out to be. He was put in his place, considered garbage as a shield for the defeated with a low rank. Such a company only recruited people to protect the high-ranking awakened elite. Employees with low ranks were only expendable, which after death were easily replaced by others without special skills. But even that wasn't the worst. The elite framed Okita and the other regular awoken by leaving them to die in front of the strongest monster in the dungeon. Left alone with the terrible monster, Okita decided that he could not give up so easily. He didn't want to die without a fight. And at that moment an incredible miracle happened. A bright blue crystal appeared above the pillar, and by touching it, the guy received an amazing ability to create an unlimited number of rare cards. He did not understand what was happening when hundreds of cards flew right into his backpack. If someone takes possession of such a deck, he will be invulnerable. Using this power, Okita summoned a huge purple monster with sharp crystal claws. His eyesight improved and he could now easily determine the opponent's ability and strength. He had reached a level of prowess that no other top-ranked awakened had. Those who humiliated and framed him did not even know that he possessed such a powerful card as the Gate. He had an endless deck of cards and intends to use that power for revenge. The company, where many elite awakens worked, turned out not to be as prestigious as he had originally imagined it to be. The C-rank dungeon they explored in Tokyo turned out to be dangerous and abandoned. When the two employees arrived at what they believed to be their destination, they realized they were trapped. Behind them were goblins, creatures with a rank F, which, at first glance, for the awakened with a higher rank, did not pose a particular threat. It was then that the awakened appeared, who saved the guys. She was annoyed to see that they couldn't handle the goblins and gave them a lesson. Now Okita understood that the dungeons were a dangerous place, and that the real strength and power was hidden behind the facade of the company's ranking system. His inner fire of revenge has flared up, and he intends to use his new powers to get to the true truth and do justice in the world of the awakened. Okita approached the guys, wondering how they were feeling. The guy in the jacket requested a situation report from a girl named Noguchi. It turned out that they successfully destroyed 4 goblins, and the blood of these creatures formed purple pools, but no traces of the magic stone were found after their death. 2 low-ranking awakens were injured in the attack, and the girl believed that they would not be able to continue the purge in such a state. The Okita offered to return to safety to help the injured. One took him seriously. His words were rejected, and the group continued to move forward, ignoring the guy's requests for help to the victims. The guy was disappointed that he was not listened to and did not even pay attention to those who needed help. He apologized to the guys and followed the group. A team of high-ranking elite awakens was assembled with them, and they did not take the boy and his low-ranking colleagues seriously. Taken to clear the dungeons, they viewed them as pawns that could be easily replaced in case of emergency. The guy turned to the girl who compiled the report with a request to give weapons to his group. However, she did not listen to him, claiming that the elite awakened already had weapons in their
Я не
including the
поняла.
latest design
Повторите,
specifically for
пожалуйста.
fighting dungeon monsters. Bullets for this weapon were made from magic stones that manifested after the death of monsters. Because these gems were valuable to low-ranked awakens, their equipment was far from the best. They could rely only on self-defense, having ordinary suits made of special fibers that protect against uranium particles. However, for clearing dungeons, such suits were not reliable enough, and low-ranked awakened had to rely only on their own strength. Okita, with an F rank, was the lowest in the company, only a servant and a porter. He was even forbidden to participate in battles, and he was considered the worst of the worst. He stood below even the low-ranking pawn. Outside, the building where the company was located looked like an ordinary office, but it turned out that it led to a dungeon, where every step could cost a life. Akitas carried a lot of things with them, and getting to the 10th level of the dungeon was difficult, with no time to rest, as the monsters could attack at any second. A large group of goblins were spotted on the radar and the team prepared to fight. But even with the use of the elite weapons, the monsters did not die. One of the goblins broke through and attacked the guy. The girl screamed his name and Akita took command. He understood that without a cannon and with such a weak weapon, it was hard for him to cope with the monster. In desperation, he tried to fight, but soon lay down, defeated by the goblin, and thought that this was the end. Then the girl came to the rescue. She said that the guy couldn't handle even the lowest ranked monster, and he would have to pay for it. However, Akita replied that his conditions were very different, since he did not have powerful magic cannons, unlike other awakened. His weapons were weak and he didn't get the chance to deal with the monsters the way he wanted to. He longed to have decent weapons and better cards to show off his abilities. After completing the purge, they needed to collect all the magic stones, but there were no more left. Well, just goblins. Their winner, the Awakened, gets rare stones that bring new unique abilities. Sons of low-ranked monsters, such as goblins, provide shards of magical power that can be used in weapons. However, activating powerful skills requires a huge amount of magic, and shards of magic stones can become useful even for high-ranking Awakened. The girl offered the leader to share some of her magic stones, but the leader refused, claiming that only those who defeat monsters get such stones. Their next task was to fight the lion werewolf, a deranked monster. The lion guardian protected the werewolves and the fight was difficult. It was important for the team to create protective barriers to protect the elite from the lion and his guards. Low-ranking Awakens like the Akita worked to protect the elite, even sacrificing their own lives to keep them safe. Despite the elite's dislike of the low-ranking Awakened, Akita wished good luck to his associates. When the monsters advanced, the team prepared for battle, using maps and the fire of the warriors to attack the enemy. But the girl was not kind to the low-ranking ones, treating them impolitely and calling them trash. Such was their fate, to fight, to sacrifice, to protect the elite, without the right to reliable weapons or worthy recognition. But Akita did not give up. He was persistent and dreamed of proving his strength, that a low rank does not determine his true essence. After finishing the purge, the elite used the rare card Warrior of the Winds. The abilities of this card were associated with the element of wind, creating powerful attacks from the air currents. From the moment the card was activated, the girls had dealt with the monsters in a matter of seconds, showing off their incomparable strength. However, it was too early for joy, because the werewolf lion remained on the way. Akita asked to be let through to distract the monster and show his strength. But unexpectedly, he received a blow from one of the elite, who called him worse than garbage and urged him not to interfere. When the team had to treat an injured Akita, he used an elixir card, which helped restore his strength and heal minor wounds. The lower ranks continued to sacrifice themselves to protect the elite, while the higher ranks of the Awakened carried out attacks. Akita felt his helplessness and low rank, forbidding him to use even a shield. Doubts and fear flashed through his head, but he did not give up. However, the girls from the elite turned to the boss for help, who used the powerful card Warriors of the Sea and won. Akita was surprised to see the boss giving a rare magic stone to the one who fought bravely. The leader called Akita and offered him this card for his bravery. The guy was overjoyed and promised to use it only at the command of the leader. Thus, the Akita received a power and a sacrament for capturing powerful monsters. He certainly proved his courage and determination. The cards have become a symbol of the opportunity for the low-ranking to rise to the top and show their strength. This story has become an example of justice and the opportunity for every Awakened to reach heights. Only one gate card is dealt to each monster defeated. This meant that the guy had only one opportunity to use his new card. Unfortunately, he couldn't use the elixir card as he only had one attempt to deal with the dungeon boss. The guy felt the attention and hopes of the group, and he understood that this chance must be used to the fullest. He was very pleased to be noticed, and he sought to prove his worth. The group was in the depths of the 10th level dungeon. Okita impressed the girl with his knowledge of drawings, which he studied in his student years. They moved towards the hull with the boss, and the radars recorded the footprints of a huge monster. This is most likely the boss of the dungeon. The cards had different rarity, and the higher it was, the more powerful the skill on the card. There were even C rarity cards that were superior to A rarity cards. Cards that were issued at low ranks, including Okita, were not ranked higher than C. The group encountered a dungeon boss. It was unusual and shaped like a muscular lion with a glowing stone on its forehead. Its monster rank was unknown, but the group had to challenge this powerful being, which was 5 times stronger than the A-rank lion they fought earlier. However, the group gathered and prepared for battle. The leader again turned to Okita for information about the monster, but despite searching, no information was found. This confused the guy, and he could not understand why such a powerful entity reminded him of the basilisk. While they waited for the moment of attack, the team took up their positions and prepared for the fight. It was necessary to watch the monster and avoid its attack radius. The guy understood that this battle would be difficult, but he hoped that they could clear the dungeon and defeat the boss. He saw faith and expectation in the eyes of his group, and Okita was ready to go to the front and use his new rare card at the right time. Then the guy decided to use his last card, the poison card. The data he studied earlier confirmed that this boss might belong to the same monster class as the basilisk. The A rank of the group was focused and ready to attack, with the Okita tasked to take a standout position and remain the secret weapon until the time came to intervene. The leader gave the command, and the elite began to attack the dungeon boss. The rest lined up defensive barriers in 3 rows. However, the monster easily destroyed all the defenses with its power. The elite used their triple attacks on the boss, but even that didn't work. Okita noticed that the formation of the group was broken, and the situation was getting out of hand. He realized that something had to be done, otherwise everyone would have to retreat and return to the entrance. The monster was too strong, even an A rank awakened was difficult to deal with. However, Okita had the last card, the poison card. He decided to take a chance and use it. In his hands was the ability to influence the outcome of the battle. The leader instructed the elite to use their cards and continue the attack, and the guy secretly activated the poison card and directed his attack to the boss's weak spot. When the poison entered the monster's body, the result was amazing. The boss began to lose strength, his movement slowed down, and he became weak. This made it possible for the elite and the rest to continue their attack by focusing on vulnerable spots. With each blow, the group moved closer to victory. Okita felt that his efforts were not in vain, and he was able to cope with this test. His confidence in himself grew, and he believed that they could defeat the dungeon boss and purify him. Finally, a powerful blow from the guy with the poison card determined the outcome of the fight. The dungeon boss has been defeated. The group caught their breath, and Okita felt proud of his contribution to the victory. His efforts and risks proved to be fateful, and he realized that even A-ranked awakens should not underestimate the capabilities of the lower ranks, because their contribution to the battle could be decisive. Okita realized that it was time to use his card. The leader asked him if he was ready, and he replied with positive enthusiasm that yes, he was ready. The abilities of this card had a huge radius of effect, and it will affect everyone around, except for the owner, which is, in this case, Okita. He would have to fight the dungeon boss alone, and he was ready for that. The leader supported him and said that he recommended him for a position in the company because he saw potential in him. Okita felt a huge responsibility entrusted to him. He had to deal with the boss and prove his worth. He made his way to the monster, supported by the elite, who used their cards to protect. The leader asked him if he was ready, and he replied with positive enthusiasm that yes, he was ready. The abilities of this card had a huge radius of effect, and it will affect everyone around, except for the owner, which is, in this case, Okita. He would have to fight the dungeon boss alone, and he was ready for that. The leader supported him and said that he recommended him for a position in the company because he saw potential in him. Okita felt a huge responsibility entrusted to him. He had to deal with the boss and prove his worth. He made his way to the monster, supported by the elite, who used their cards to protect him. The guy ran quickly, casting aside fear and doubt. The leader gave the command to use the release card, and suddenly the ground disappeared under his feet, and he fell into a black abyss. He found himself in a trap that destroyed the entire area around him. Everyone around him laughed at him, but he could not understand what had happened. It turned out that the boss had amazing strong armor, and the only way to kill him was to attack him directly in the mouth, which opened wide when he prepared to absorb the prey. The guy didn't have monster data on his tablet, and the leader changed the formation ahead of time so they wouldn't know anything. It turned out that they badly needed someone like Okita for this fight to win it. The team was willing to sacrifice their lives to protect each other. The elite of the awakened and their rare cards were valuable, and the monster seemed to have finally noticed them. But no map would help, and the guy understood that their bait did not work. The awakened elite girl scornfully remarked that such actions were stupid and uninteresting for the monster. She threw the Fire Warrior card to draw the monster's attention to the Okita. However, the monster turned out to be smarter than they expected. He called for them to stop, but no one was listening. The guy was threatened with death. If the monster does not kill him, then a burning death awaits him. He realized that it was this crystal that emitted light, and various voices came from it in different languages, including Japanese, which he recognized. The crystal spoke to him, asking if he wanted power. The guy didn't understand what was going on, but he knew he was part of something much bigger than just a group of awakened ones. The power the crystal offered lured him in, promising salvation and victory over the monster. He felt that this offer could change his life, but did not know what the consequences would be. Thoughts swirled in his head about whether he should trust this crystal and what price he would have to pay. He looked around and realized that there was no way back. Next to the crystal were several more cards that were filled with various symbols and magic runes. He didn't know what they meant, but he felt they were some kind of clue to the power the crystal offered. Now the guy had a choice, to stay with the one who rejected and insulted him, or to believe in the power that the crystal offered, but not know what lay ahead of him. His eyes were a mixture of fear and determination. He understood that he could not remain weak and defenseless, but now he had to make a fateful decision. And then he heard the leader's voice in his head, who told him about his potential, that he was capable of much. The guy felt an inner strength that pushed him to make a choice. He made up his mind and extended his hand towards the crystal, ready to accept its power and become stronger in order to protect his friends and defeat the monster. In this way, he became part of something greater, a force that could change their world and the outcome of the battle. He understood that now a new path was waiting for him, full of dangers and trials, but he was ready to go all the way to become stronger and protect those who believed in him. Together with the crystal, he made a decision. He wanted to become a real hero. The guy was stunned by the discovery of powerful and rare cards in his deck. Each of them seemed to him the most valuable treasure, which gave great strength. He realized that now he was not just a weak awakened, but the owner of powerful abilities that could turn the tide of battles. Something went wrong with the rest of the cards that could have been corrupted. There seemed to be a lot of them, but they turned out to be broken. However, one card somehow remained intact, and that was the key card that carried all the information from the other cards into his mind. Now he knew all the names by heart and could call them to help. Desire gleamed in his eyes, to defeat the monster they were after and to show everyone that he was not just a powerless rookie. He felt that now he could protect his friends and himself, and do it with dignity. Feeling his determination and strength again, the guy headed back to the group. He knew that now he had every opportunity to become a true leader and lead his comrades to victory. He was no longer afraid of poisonous gas or fire attacks, because he had powerful cards that could withstand any danger. The boss of the dungeon was now standing in front of him, a huge two-headed snake that looked powerful and deadly. But the guy wasn't scared. He shouted the word release and summoned his mighty dark serpent, which immediately rushed to the attack. With frenzied strength and skill, which gave him possession of cards, the guy fought the boss. Lightning attacks, mighty arrows, whirlwinds of flame, he used all his new abilities to counter the monster. The whole group looked at the guy in surprise, seeing how he turns from a weak beginner into a real hero. They saw how he confidently fights and protects them. The leader of the group understood that his choice was the right one when he suggested that the guy use the crystal. And so, after a long and intense battle, the guy was able to defeat the boss of the dungeon. The huge serpent is defeated, and the monster is no longer a threat to everyone. Now they stood in front of the exit from the dungeon, having defeated the danger that seemed insurmountable. The guy understood that with the help of his new cards he was capable of much, and he was ready to use this power to protect his friends and anyone who needed help. He has come a long way from being a weak beginner to a powerful awakened, and now his name will be known in a world where power cards and magical abilities exist. He became a true hero, and his story will live on in their hearts as a symbol of unwavering determination and fortitude. Suddenly, the appearance of a guy and his mighty dark two-headed snake caused shock and bewilderment among the entire elite group. They did not expect him to return and be able to fight the dungeon boss so powerfully. The leader was especially surprised and proud that his decision to ask the boy to use. Suddenly, the appearance of a guy and his mighty dark two-headed snake caused shock and bewilderment among the entire elite group. They did not expect him to return and be able to fight the dungeon boss so powerfully. The leader was especially surprised and proud that his decision to ask the boy to use the crystal was so successful. The guy, using the power of his snake and powerful cards, joined the group in battle against the monster. He decided to show his strength and skills in all its glory and show that now he is not just an A-rank awakened, but a real hero capable of protecting his comrades. He landed powerful punches, aimed accurately, and used his cards in ways none of them expected. He became a true leader in battle, uniting everyone around him and channeling the group's efforts into a single force. From time to time, the guy used his enhanced visual ability to detect the weak points of the monster and dodge dangerous attacks. His reaction was so fast that he seemed almost untouchable. The group worked well together, and thanks to the guy's strong tactics and his cards, they were able to control the situation. They acted as one, and it was noticeable even for the monster. Ultimately, the group's combined efforts defeated the monster. The dungeon boss was defeated and his huge body collapsed to the ground. The guy, the leader, and the rest of the group took a break from the battle, realizing that they were able to cope with an incredibly strong opponent. They were grateful to the guy for his courage and determination, which brought them victory. The guy himself could not believe in his new opportunities. He realized that this was only the beginning of his name had become famous in the world of the awakened, and he was now recognized as a true hero and leader. His strength and power have become a great inspiration to many, and his story has become a legend. Thus ended his story in the dungeon, but new adventures and trials awaited him ahead. His friends and the elite group were sure that together they could overcome any difficulties and defeat the most powerful monsters. The guy realized that strength is not only in cards, but also in faith in himself and his comrades. He was ready for new challenges and adventures, ready to become a true legendary awakened. It has become clear from recent events that the situation has become critical. The leader of the company, furious that the guy has a rare and powerful card, tried to get rid of him. He raised his gun and shouted the order die Akita. The guy, being in confusion and fear, realized that his life was now threatened by the leader of the company, a man whom he had previously trusted and admired. He understood that he could not compete with a pistol and could die. Suddenly, at that moment, his voice changed. It was the dragon's voice that summoned him and gave him new strength. The guy felt that he had once again united with the dragon, and now he possessed not only the power of the cards, but also the power of the dragon. He raised his hand and something amazing happened. Powerful energy and light enveloped him, and something incredible happened in front of the leader. The guy was able to block a pistol shot and prevent the leader from his insidious intentions. Now the guy stood in front of the leader of the company like a real hero with incredible strength. He no longer needed protection and even became a protector. His new power, combined with the dragon, overcame all expectations. In surprise and fear, the leader could not believe what he was seeing. The guy, looking at him, said firmly and confidently, "I no longer work for you. I'm leaving and creating my own destiny." He turned and left, leaving the leader and the rest of the elite in shock. The guy no longer wanted to deal with the corrupt and cruel methods of this company. He realized his own power and the power of his dragon, and now he was free. From that day on, the guy went on his new adventures, becoming a real hero for people who needed protection and help. He used his powers and cards for good, helping those who could not cope with monsters and villains. His name became known throughout the world of the Awakened, and his legend spread everywhere. He was known as a Dragon Master, a powerful and just protector. Thus ended the story of a guy who started his journey as a low-ranking Awakened, but thanks to his courage, strength and friendship with the dragon, he became a real hero. His adventures continued, and he overcame all difficulties, meeting new friends and treasures along the way. It was a story about courage, faith in yourself and your friends, secrets and power, and their independence made them extremely attractive to those who sought help in the perilous adventures of the dungeon. In this unfair world, outside the walls of the office, the guy Akita thought about his future. It was not affordable to hire a team, as the self-employed Awakened either refused or simply cheated, accepting money and not fulfilling their obligations. He felt the power of injustice that reigns everywhere. The guy realized that perhaps it was impossible to simply agree to the request of the man without warning his superiors. However, he no longer knew what to do other than turn to other Awakened ones working outside his company for help. This is how he approached Akito, who happened to have quit her company and was looking for a dungeon to test her skills. The man offered his request for Akito's help and was willing to pay her 100,000 for her services if the dungeon was successfully cleared. But then a girl intervened, suddenly, jumping out of the darkness. She accused the guy and Akito of violating the laws regarding the work of the Awakened, and threatened to videotape everything and contact the authorities. Garrison tried to run away, but then a man appeared next to Akito. As it turned out, the girl was the granddaughter of this man. She asked who they were and what they were doing, and the man introduced Akito as an Awakened one. The girl demanded a certificate of rank, and Akito showed her his documents. Seeing his low rank among the Awakened ones, she offered to drive him and the guy away. However, Akito reassured her, assuring her that he would not cause any problems for her or her grandfather. He understood that in this world, many only pay attention to rank, but he did not want his abilities to be questioned. His low rank did not define his true strength and experience. Akito was ready to prove his competence and help the man without any dissatisfaction and doubts. Among the independent Awakened ones working outside the companies, alas, one can often meet scammers, just as grandfather told about those two. These deceivers not only tarnish the reputation of the Awakened, but also harm the owners of the buildings, leaving a trail of frustration and suffering in their wake. Such thoughts haunted Akita, who decided to help the man who asked for his help. Thus, Akito proceeded to overcome the dungeon boss. He went down to the first floor, and here he found that the space was much more spacious than he had imagined. Corridors and rooms indicated that the building used to function as a service center with various offices. All of a sudden, Akito's information about the nearby monsters was updated. They were Goblin's 23 monsters. He decided to try out his new cards on them, and used the Hellfire card, ordering her to burn the monsters. The card turned out to be extremely powerful, and all the enemies were destroyed, as if fire fell on them from all sides. However, unexpectedly for Akito, something strange began to happen. It became difficult for him to breathe. The level of oxygen dropped sharply, and where he disappeared, he did not understand. A fire in an enclosed space might have led to a similar outcome, but one engulfed in hellfire should not have burned all the oxygen in this way. He realized that the situation was dangerous and his life was in danger. Akito was deprived of air, his lungs suffered from a lack of oxygen, and the situation became more and more critical. It was necessary to act urgently, and he decided to take the risk. Picking up another card, Great Mistress of the Winds, he hoped that this would help. In this dangerous dungeon where oxygen levels were on the line, Akito found a way to normalize the situation. He was able to return the vital air to the floor, otherwise he would have been doomed. He chose a new card that helped him survive, but he himself suffered, almost killing himself with his own strong cards. However, due to his skill, he was able to defeat his enemies in the dungeon. It seemed that his cards were too powerful, as if he bombarded enemies from a height, leaving no chance for survival. However, in this strange room, Akito could safely control the full power of his cards, without fear of possible consequences. Here he circled around, remaining unharmed, as if he was protected by magical armor. But he realized that things were different in ordinary dungeons, and in order to cope with these dangers, he would need to learn and control the power of each of his cards. After successfully clearing out the goblins, Akito spotted shards of a magic stone. He decided to take them with him, because they can be useful in the future, restoring his magical power. Grandfather and his granddaughter were sitting, waiting for the guy to finish clearing the dungeon. Grandfather confidently said that the dungeon is usually protected for a long time, and a beginner like Akito will have to spend several days here. The girl was worried about her grandfather, who had been sitting in the cold for so long, but he reassured her, saying that Mr. Akito risked his life for them, so they should wait for him and meet him. When it began to get dark, the girl offered to go home, but Akito did not agree to the offer to buy something in the store. At this time, a new announcement appeared on the tablets about the presence of new monsters in the dungeon. There seemed to be even more of them than on the previous floor. But Akito did not want a repeat of the past dangerous situation with fire, so he decided to attack them from afar, but one at a time. It will take longer, but be less dangerous. Black magic card and ordered her to open fire. The magic worked and the goblin was killed. There were many such monsters, and Akito continued to fight them. Their death messages came in dozens. He left no room for doubt in his skill, boldly overcoming all obstacles to clear the dungeon. On the new screen in front of him, a notification of an unexpected increase in magic consumption appeared. With the current load of 50% magic power, he had to order the monsters to stop and return to their places. The next message was about the destruction of all the monsters and the complete cleaning of the floor. Undeniably, he was able to deal with all the enemies until his magical energy ran out, but he felt that he lacked the experience to control cards with such powerful magical characteristics. Less than 10% of magic power remained, only 3 times he used cards, and there was almost no magic left. From the last card, Magic Left Forever, its use was very expensive. But he knew that he had to save his magical energy for the boss fight that would take place on the top floor. However, Akito knew that more effective cards had to be chosen to deal with the rest of the floors. He needed to find cards that did not require such a high consumption of magic in order to save strength for future battles. Remembering the warrior cards that were used in the group led by his former superiors, he decided to try using one of them. By choosing the card Azure Samurai, he felt that the control over the cards became more stable and reasonable. With this card, he moved and attacked exactly as needed for a successful battle. The cards were getting better, and spending magic was much less expensive now. If he continues to develop and reveal the abilities of the cards, he will be able to free all the remaining floors. With such thoughts and plans, Okita continued his journey through the dungeon. Time will teach him how to use his cards correctly and gain confidence in his abilities. He dreamed of clearing all the floors, and for this he was ready to overcome all obstacles and fight the boss that was waiting for him on the top floor. Okita was already on the fourth floor of the dungeon. Again he used his card Azure Samurai, and again the monsters were destroyed, the floor was cleared, and he received 1000 experience points. The warrior cards really came in handy, allowing him to move through floors faster and deal with enemies with ease. New skills, such as the art of surprise attack and counterattack, were unlocked on the next floors. With confidence and skill, the guy continued on his way. Now he was on the 8th floor, where he encountered D-rank goblin warriors. Okita went through the information about the boss of the floor, the royal goblin, whose rank was C. The goblin tried to use the ability of the terrifying menacing reef, but the guy held up the card, asking for forgiveness and asking what the goblin was going to do. Without waiting for an answer, he hit the goblin prematurely, and a second later, the message that the boss had been defeated appeared on the screen. The guy was able to win using a completely unexpected method. Clearing the entire dungeon one by one, the guy used his cards again and again, developing his skills and coming to new discoveries. The magic he mastered made him stronger each time, and he wondered how effective his cards would become in the future. Upon his return to the surface, he called the man and his granddaughter, who were surprised at how quickly he completed the cleanup. But the girl told him not to be upset, arguing that it was understandable that he had a low rank and this was the reason for his failure. However, the grandfather thanked the guy for his efforts and attention to their stories. Despite everything, he still helped them and tried to support them. The guy, not wanting to reveal the secrets of his success, smiled modestly and said that perhaps he was just lucky with the cards, and he was glad to help. But in the depths of his soul hid a clever plan. He did not want his truthful abilities to become public, and decided to leave others in the dark about his true abilities. After all, even more difficult tests lay ahead in the future, and Okita was determined to become stronger and wiser before revealing all his cards. Once again showing his skill, Okita successfully cleared the fourth floor of the dungeon. The man offered him to stay and work in other dungeons, but the guy confidently stated that he had already cleared the entire building. However, the man noted that there may be 2 more such publications that require cleaning. The guy admitted that there is such an opportunity, and gladly agreed to continue working. He needed magic stones from the dungeons, and he and his grandfather became a tight-knit team. The new task was very close, and the guy was glad of this opportunity. He dreamed of testing his cards in a new dungeon and improving his abilities. Despite the speed of the new invitation, the girl noticed that her grandfather quickly gave new tasks, not even noting gratitude for the previous help. But the guy did not pay attention to this and, feeling lucky and enthusiastic, was ready to accept a new job. After completing another dungeon, the guy was invited to dinner. The girl, the granddaughter of the master, prepared many delicious dishes, but seemed somehow alarmed. He apologized if he offended her in some way, but she did not immediately pay attention to it. The dinner was held in a pleasant atmosphere, and the grandfather thanked the guy for his help in the dungeon, expressing his gratitude to him. After talking, the guy found out that the grandfather lives with his granddaughter, since her parents are abroad and cannot return due to the transformation of the Tokyo airport into a dungeon. This seriously affected tourism and business with other countries, which created many problems for the granddaughter's family. Her father and mother cannot return to Japan, and this is very difficult for her. The guy sincerely regretted this situation and realized that his work in the dungeons plays an important role in helping such families. As time passed, when he was leaving, the guy called his mother, sharing his news with her. He assured her that everything was fine and that he would do his best for his entire family no matter what. He felt that his efforts were useful, and this motivated him to further achievements. The guy, armed with his cards and experience, overcame the floors of the dungeon with amazing dexterity and strength. The guy, armed with his cards and experience, overcame the floors of the dungeon with amazing dexterity and strength. His path continued, and each new floor brought him new challenges. On the fifth floor, he found that the data had been updated, and the item this time was a shard of magic stone, restoring as much as 1% of his magic power. It was a valuable prize that could come in handy in further battles. But the guy didn't relax. He felt that he was approaching something special, and each new floor aroused more and more interest in him. On the sixth floor, new monsters appeared, spear goblins of rank E. They were dexterous and cunning in battle, but the guy was not embarrassed. He used his new skills, which he acquired thanks to the cards, and easily destroyed the opponents. The sixth floor was cleared, and the guy continued on his way. Seventh, eighth. He moved closer to the dungeon boss with each floor. Finally, he faced the main monster, a C-rank royal goblin. The fight was tense, but the boy used his tactical skills and composure, which he received from his cards. In the end, he managed to defeat the boss by figuring out his weaknesses and attacking at the right moment. The guy turned out to be the winner in a single battle with the main monster, and his heart was filled with pride and joy. He cleared the entire dungeon and defeated the most dangerous enemies. His skill and courage gained more and more respect, and he felt that he was becoming a true awakened one, a powerful warrior capable of conquering all the dungeons that lay ahead. At the end of his underground journey, the guy returned upstairs, where a man and his granddaughter were already waiting for him. They were amazed at the speed and skill of the guy, because he coped with such a dangerous mission in such a short time. His exploits and courage deserve gratitude and respect. The guy again felt that his help was needed. He was offered to clear a few more dungeons, which were also contaminated by monsters. And despite the fatigue, he could not refuse this challenge. After all, his mission is to protect his loved ones, his native country and all who are in need. On the seventh floor, the guy encountered monsters that could throw spears, but for such cases, he had a new skill, Azure Samurai. He burst into heavenly rain and a whisk of stones, unleashing his wrath on the enemies. The task was clear, to destroy their weapons and respond with a counterattack. Everything was done with skill, and the battle ended in success. The guy earned experience and received the title of Ultimate Swordsman. His map has been updated and he has gained new skills, including a series of strikes. With each floor, his skills became stronger, and he received new powers from his cards. He wondered how strong his cards might become in the future. After all, magic, which only the awakened can use, provided them with the opportunity to summon creatures and objects from their world, sealed in cards. The entire card contained information about the creature or item, including its type and skills. However, the Awakens could not use two cards of each type at once, as they could be at odds with each other, and Awakened teams worked together to help each other. Each battle brought the guy more and more skills and strength. His deck of cards became more and more powerful, and he was able to protect an entire floor with a single blow. But he wondered what would happen if there were two strong dungeons that would be difficult to clear even with his cards. While he was on the seventh floor approaching the boss, he considered his options. He knew that the boss possessed a spear and his rank was C+. The guy knew that he was facing a difficult test, but his soul was on fire with the desire to win. He was sure that his cards and skills would allow him to cope with this challenge. So, with burning eyes and determination in his heart, the guy continued on his way, ready to overcome all difficulties and prove that he is a real awakened one, worthy of fighting the most dangerous enemies and protecting his loved ones from the evil of the dungeons. The guy realized that the dungeons inside the buildings are about the same in size and appearance. So this floor was not much different from the previous one. But this time, a boss with a spear was waiting for him, much longer than his sword. It was not easy to get close to him, and the guy hoped that his deck of cards would provide a skill for long distances. He also had to check taxes, which remained unexamined. Again, he released the Azure Samurai and unleashed his power on the boss like thunder. The lightning attacks were incredibly strong, and even a long-range boss was defeated with a single powerful blow. It looks like the guy even destroyed a few walls along the way. This card had amazing skills. The guy defeated the boss and got the magic stone. He was surprised that even a relatively easy boss brought him such strange and interesting things. Also, his 5 card proved useful again, protecting him from monsters for 300 seconds. Time to go back up. Grandfather was waiting for him on the bench. The guy turns around and again cannot believe that he has already finished his adventure. He brought grandfather a magic stone. Then follow me, said grandfather and ran after the next dungeon. The guy asked his grandfather to give him at least a taste of the bento that his granddaughter had prepared for him. The girl hoped that the guy would eat well after successfully completing the dungeon. Once in the dungeon, the guy ordered the motor samurai to bring down all his strength on the monster, like thunder. Lightning attacks from a long distance allowed him to defeat the enemy with one blow. Then he activated the skill Spinira's blade, and his blade began to dance, destroying the monsters. The dungeon was destroyed, and the guy got new skills for the cards.